All right, so we're going to talk about our new product series of solar cameras. So let's quickly have a look and see what we've got in store for you here. But first of all, we're going to look at why solar power cameras, and I think we can all gather, or we can all think about why we need it. What is a solar powered camera? We can look at that as well. Is it good enough? Is it going to work for most applications? Yes or no? And where do we apply it? All right, so first of all, why solar powered cameras? I think we all know why. Normally, it's because of infrastructure or a lack of infrastructure, right? So I want to keep my eye on the farm and things like that, but I don't have any infrastructure, power or network cabling or communication or anything like that to the points where I need cameras. All right, typical other places, industrial sites, mining, anywhere where you don't have infrastructure, where you need to have some eyes on that area. All right, so the main thing is, like we mentioned, no electricity or no network cabling. All right, so, or in the case where the actual cabling or the infrastructure might cost you more than, what it's worth, the camera or the cabling or anything like that. So what is a solar powered camera? Let's quickly have a look at that, right? So this is typically one of our series. We've got 3 different series. This is a standard series, but they all conform to more or less the same, system, really. So first of all, we've got the camera, all right, the camera unit and so forth. And then we have the integrated battery inside the camera housing. We've got a junction box behind the solar panel there. Solar panel, as you can see, brackets and so forth for mounting. And then also inside the camera, you'll have a SIM card slot. All right, so this is basically the layout or the construction of the solar camera series, right? So this is just the advanced series, but you can see virtually the same type of layout as we had in the previous one. All right, so is it, what is a solar powered camera? The topology, what can we connect to? So first of all, can connect to our iSeries NVRs. Can connect to our backend platform, Hike Central 2.1, your Hike Connect app, as well as Hike Pro Connect, right? So the communication is there. It's already integrated in all these different platforms. So it's already usable. Right. Is it good enough? What makes a solar powered camera, what makes a good solar powered security camera? We need to look at functionality there as well. 3 different series, as I mentioned already. There's also 3 different working modes, and I want to highlight this as well. Camera showcase and then the selection guide that we're going to look at. All right, first of all, what makes a good solar powered camera? Obviously, long battery life. You don't want to have the camera run out of battery halfway through the night. All right, so we've got the 3 different choices there. Don't worry too much about the wattage there. We're going to talk about that in a moment. All right, so does a larger battery capacity, a large battery capacity equals a heavier camera, right? Because, bigger battery is normally quite a heavy component and so forth. So it needs to, it's going to create a heavier camera, more bulky and so forth. All right, but it does not necessarily mean that you get a longer operation time. Okay, so if we compare to some other competitors with our 4G on and the IR off, we get about 168 hours worth of power through, with a fully charged battery, where competitors is almost half of that. With the 4G on and the IR on as well, 118 hours, and that's almost half of it. Okay, so we're looking at the power consumption as well. So the main thing is that we only use 2 watts, right, to power this camera. So it's extremely low power consumption. But basically, if we compare it to other cameras, your standard type of camera is 90 watts. This is the big camera, right? So your standard type of camera is around about 12 watts and so forth, PoE bars, PoE switches and so forth, 5 watts there. So the main thing is not just the wattage, because you can go for a larger panel and larger batteries and makes it much more expensive and so forth, but also we need to look at the environment. So this will basically save 1 tree a year. If we compare, a normal camera with this particular camera, we're going to save about 1 tree per year if we look at, the ecological side of things. So imagine if you have like a couple of million of these over the world, how many trees and plantations we can save. And then obviously that means, a bit cleaner air as well, and a little bit more air for us to breathe. So it's a very, very good thing. Okay. Light but sturdy. All right, so what do we mean with light but sturdy? So it's light enough to lift it with one hand. So it's not a very heavy setup. Strong enough for wind resistance. We're going to talk about that in a second. So IP67 and anti-corrosion, so you can use it wherever you want to. So if we look at the first one, it's a 13-kilogram setup. It's not that heavy. It can withstand a category 12 typhoon. Now, in South Africa, I know that we don't really have typhoons, but we do have strong winds in certain areas. So we need to look out for that. If we look at the larger one, this is the standard series and this is the advanced series, right? So 20 kilograms for this guy here can withstand a category 10 typhoon. So these things are very, very sturdy. And if we look at the weight here compared to competitors and so forth, we're not going to name any, and compared to larger standard cameras and so forth, right? So these things are quite strong and sturdy, so you don't have to worry about this thing being blown away in the wind. All right, so what makes a good solar-powered camera? First things first, up to 8 megapixel color view. So I'm sure all of you know our color view series cameras. We've got color view built into these cameras as well, which is fantastic for nighttime viewing, very good lighting conditions, or very good light control or handling. All right. If we look at the 3 different standards that we've got the basic, which is more for the limited budget and so forth, up to 4 megapixel. The standard series 4 megapixel, but with color view technology built in, and the advanced series 8 megapixel with color view and AccuSense functionality built in. So this is obviously for your larger projects and scenarios. All right, I also mentioned the 3 working modes. We've got 3 working modes for the 3 different cameras. All right, so the performance mode, first of all, if we look at the recording side of things, continuous recording. So onto the SD card that we can put into the camera, right? So continuous recording. So this camera is operating 24/7. Communication, the data transmission over your 3G, 4G card, if it's constant and so forth, so that's under the performance mode. And then the event types will include motion and PIR detection or smart perimeter protection. So that's like your AccuSense functionality. We also have the proactive mode. So proactive mode is continuous recording, but event-only data usage, right? So communications only events, so whenever there's an event, and those events will include motion, PIR, and so forth. And then also we have the standby mode. The standby mode is the most green mode, all right, the lightest mode. So event recording only and event alarm push communication only, and that'll happen with PIR detection. All right, so we've got the 3 different types of working modes, right? So what does that mean when we talk about power consumption? All right, so for power consumption, round the clock watching and recording. Right. So this mode, which cameras can work with full functions and high performance. However, the constant data communication events and functions will not turned on by default. Configuration is available to turn them on, right? But 24/7 monitoring. So what does it mean without any sunlight? How long can the camera operate without any sunlight? And that's 2.5 days, right? 2.5 days. So you'll never find, unless you go to Antarctica, someplace like that doesn't have sun for months, then 2.5 days recording on this camera without any sunlight, which is fantastic, right? That's in the performance mode, right? Then if we look at the proactive mode, the middle one, full-time recording and event alerting only, without sunlight, 4.5 days. 4.5 days without any sunlight, right? So this is for our standard series camera. So 4.5 days, you'll never run out of power then, right? 4.5 days, even if you've got heavily overcast days and rainy days and all those kind of things, you're still going to charge the battery somewhat. Okay, so if it happens that it is really overcast and it's absolutely minimal sunlight, maybe the placement of the camera and something like that will affect it, then the battery will switch off, or the power unit will switch off when the battery reaches about 15% to conserve the battery. To save it, basically, right? In standby mode, we've got event capturing by PIR or manual operation, right? So we're going to capture events triggered by the PIR, and that'll obviously push through to whatever platforms we're using, like the Hikconnect. Without sunlight, 24 days. 24 days in standby mode, right? This is an extremely long time frame that we can run off the battery. It's a fairly small battery, but remember, we're only using 2 watts, right? So fantastic. All right, so advanced series. So this is the advanced series for the solar panel. We've got an 80-watt panel on there, from completely flat to full charging, depending on your sunlight quality, if I can put it that way, 1.5 to 4 days, right? Battery and smart power management with 320 watt-hour built-in rechargeable battery, obviously. Data transmission, your 4G SIM slot that's already built in. Cameras are 8-megapixel color view and AccuSense technology in there, and we have two variances, 2.8 and a 4mm lens, 30-meter supplement lighting for the camera itself. Protection up to IP67 for the whole system, all right? So cabling, all those kind of things, right? And then also harsh environments from -22 up to 55 degrees working temperature, right? So this is the advanced series camera. If we look at the standard series camera, it's got a 40-watt panel, completely flat to full charge, 1.5 to 3 days. It's got a 180 watt-hours battery system built in. Same 4G. The camera itself is a 4-megapixel color view lens, or 4-megapixel color view camera, 4 and a 6mm lens options that you've got there. IP67 for the whole system again, and the same working environment, -20 to 55 degrees Celsius. And then the last one, the basic series, the cheaper version, it's got a 5-watt panel, full charging time 1 to 2 days, 40 watt-hour battery built in, same 4G technology built in there, ISAPI and ISUP, so ISAPI for third-party integration. ISUP is the protocol we use to integrate with our NVRs and backend platforms. Camera is a 4-megapixel camera, f1.6 aperture, which means very good lighting control, especially at nighttime. 406mm lens, IP66 for the whole one, and this one goes from 0 to 40 degrees Celsius. All right, so this is the basic series, and then we have the 3 series, so the basic, standard, and advanced. All right, so a quick showcase. I'm not going to go through all the settings. As I already mentioned, we've got the advanced, the standard, and the basic series. All right, so we've got the 8-megapixel color view and AccuSense function in the advanced. We've got the 4-megapixel color view over there, and then the normal 4-megapixel in this guy over here. Now, I'm not going to highlight everything because I already mentioned some of it, but battery life in cloudy or rainy days. So in performance mode, 5, 2.5, and 0.5 days. Proactive mode, 7, 4.5, and 0.75 days. And then in standby mode, 80, 24, and 7 days. All right, so this is the battery life when it's cloudy or rainy. Okay, time required for a full recharge, basically. So if your battery is completely flat, below 15%, and starts charging from there, if you're running in performance mode, it'll take about 4 days. For a full charge, to charge it completely, 3 days there. Proactive mode, 2 days, 2.5 days, and standby mode, 1.5 days, and then about 4 days for the basic series there. All right, so depending on your sunlight conditions and so forth. But believe me, I don't think you're going to run out of power for these systems. All right, so how is it applied in real life? Where are we going to use this? All right, so as I mentioned, places where we don't have infrastructure, power, communication, those kind of things. And I mean, South Africa, we've got a lot of those places, right? But if we look at typical sites like construction sites, highways, factories, farms especially, there's a lot of other places. Now, the nice thing is this guy over here as well, temporary events. So temporary events, you don't want to do a permanent installation, run your cabling and all those kind of things to a point and whatever, and you're just going to take it off in 2 days' time. Put it on a tripod and have it for your events, things like this. All right, so as we mentioned, farming as well. I mean, farming, big, wide open spaces, no infrastructure there. So fantastic use for farming and your high areas where we need high security. Forests, natural resorts, places like that. Also, big open spaces, no infrastructure. We need to have it there. Industrial lines, so mining and so forth. Also, again, the main thing is there's no infrastructure there to put a camera down. It's going to be too costly to run cabling, power, and network and those kind of things to a camera point. You can use it there. Temporary events could be sports events. It could be temporary construction sites, things like that. Fantastic use for them as well. All right, so that is basically our solar-powered series product family. So we've got the 3 series, as I mentioned again. So the advanced, the standard, as well as the basic, so the budget-friendly one. And yeah, if you have any questions, you're more than welcome to put them in the Q&A, in the Q&A box, or you can contact us afterwards. All right. Thank you very much, Jade. Is there something that you would like to add?
Hi, Ro.
Hi, Jade. Hi.
Okay, so